Turn the volume loud. Headlines top the charts. We inform your hearts. Breaking news, HQ, always here for you. Trust the word we share. News beyond compare. Watch the views amount. Breaking news, HQ, always here for you. Trust the word we share. News beyond compare. In the fast-paced stream, we're your trusted team. Facts we can't ignore, bringing you much more. Breaking news, HQ, always here for you. Trust the word we share. News beyond compare.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Breaking News HQ. This is your Sunday afternoon update of stuff that's going on. We hope you all having a good weekend, definitely a good Sunday. We appreciate you all being here. We love our fans and love for you to be here. Please feel welcome to, if you have any questions as we're going over stuff, give us a chat. We'll be glad to answer any questions that you have or look up stuff that you want more information about that we may not be covering.
And I know a lot of people are covering all the flooding and the damage from Hurricane Helene. If you've got questions about that, we're here. We're so here to answer it. But not a lot of people are putting out information about this biolab fire. But that's Tony's wheelhouse. That's literally, like, I had to go when he was cutting the grass and be like, there's a fire at a plant. And this is literally his expertise. So there's nobody really reporting on that much. So we thought we would take the opportunity to try to be one of the first to break ground with what's going on. And luckily, Tony has tons of information about how that type of shit works.
So a little bit about my background is I'm an environmental engineer. So I work with this type of stuff all the time, whether it be fires or hazardous waste or hazardous materials, or spills, or cleanups, or remediation. So this is kind of what I do all the time. So this is, like she said, this is definitely in our wheelhouse. And what we're going to talk about is, starting off, is what Allie just talked about, is the chemical fire in Conyers, Georgia. Conyers, Georgia is about an hour south or southwest of Atlanta. This morning we didn't think really much about it. We got an update that there was a fire at a chemical plant in Conyers, Georgia. Well, turns out it was at a biolab facility, which is the facility where they do make chemicals for pools, all the different stuff, but it's where they formulate it, so it's a bunch of different chemicals that go together. And some of those chemicals, just as a little background, what Biolab does, some of the chemicals they mix together is supposed to be reactive with water, so they get the desired results when you put it in your pool. Well, some of these chemicals that they mix together to do that with, are what they call hydrophoric. That means if water gets on those chemicals, it can cause a fire. It also is hydrophoric and pyrophoric. So when the water gets on them, they all of a sudden they combust. And I know it's a strange thing to think about. Even back when I was in college, had trouble putting it in my mind to think about water actually getting on something. Can cause
mod on there.
Can cause a fire. So that in this case, a lot of times one of the big things that are hydrophoric or pyrophoric is alkali metals. So alkali metals is are elements that they use to mix in with these pool chemicals in order to formulate them to go into the pools to get the desired reaction, whether it's to kill algae or to do whatever, or to balance out your pool. So when the raw materials they're safe when they're put together with other things because it stabilizes them. But if they're on individually before they mix them together, they're pyrophoric. So what the deal? What happened was this morning they had a sprinkler head in the area of this biolab facility in Conyers, Georgia, and we're gonna watch a video about it too. But whenever the sprinkler head broke, the water from that sprinkler head got on some of these pyrophoric chemicals and caused a fire. So once they got wet, they combusted and the plant caught on fire. So in that case, that's when the fire began this morning. That was around 9:30, I think, this morning. That started. And there's a huge plume of smoke, and then we'll talk about the smoke here in a second. But there's a huge plume of smoke in that area that came up, and it caused a fire. And the fire department came out, and they actually put the fire out, which is not easy because they have to use foam because they can't use water because of the type of chemicals it is. They put more water on it, they cause a bigger fire. So when this fire began, let's talk a little bit about the smoke from this chemical fire. So these chemicals, whenever they burn, the smoke that comes off of them is carrying emissions from that fire, and it's hazardous to people to breathe in. So when this fire started this morning, they had to evacuate. I think they evacuated by like 3 miles around the city, because you'll see when we watch the video of it, the smoke was just huge, a huge plume of smoke coming off of it, because it was a big fire at this chemicals. It's a big plant, so that smoke is being blown. If the wind's blowing at all, it blows that toxic smoke all over the areas that it goes around. So they evacuated the areas, or told people if they weren't willing to evacuate, at least go in their houses, seal the windows and doors, and to put stuff around them to keep anything from, if they're not airtight, then the smoke can still get into the house and you're breathing it. And it's not only, it can cause you, it's kind of almost similar to mustard gas. It makes it so you can't breathe. So it kind of almost like suffocates you. And it definitely, if it even isn't to that level of toxicity, it can also damage your lungs, and it also can be cancer causing. So it's a mess. So this morning they did that. They evacuated the area and thought they had the fire out. Well, that's about an hour ago. The fire started back up again. Water got back on those same chemicals from however water finds the easiest path of resistance, kind of like when it's flooding, and that way it caused the fire to start up again. So we've got that huge plume of smoke back up again. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to play the video now and let you see what's going on. Then we'll talk a little bit more about it as soon as the video is over. Thank you all for being here.
Good evening. Thank you so much for joining us back here at the First Alert Desk. My name's Carly Barnett, and we have been following these breaking updates regarding a fire at a chemical plant that happened in Rockdale County, Georgia. Good evening. Thank you so much for joining us back here at the First Alert Desk. My name's Carly Barnett, and we have been following these breaking updates regarding a fire at a chemical plant that happened in Rockdale County, Georgia, in the city of Conyers. We have this video of what we are talking about right here. You can see this image, this happening around 5 in the morning at the bio lab that deals with pool chemicals, spa chemicals on Old Covington Highway. That happened around 5 this morning, officials tell us, after a sprinkler malfunctioned and water ignited a fire at that plant. At around 10 a.m., they were able to get get part of it under control, but then that fire reignited. Now, you may have joined us out here earlier where we were giving you updates. We have 2 crews at the scene right now, and any moment now we are getting an update from officials. You can see here they are debriefing, they are getting their information, and we have been waiting on an update for quite some time. So we have our reporter Bridget Spencer out there. We also have our reporter Yasmina Alston out there because this is a situation that has been unfolding since 5 o'clock in the morning. And we have been bringing you all of the latest updates. And if you want to kind of get caught up to what I am talking about, we have that for you on atlantanewsfirst.com and our Atlanta News First app. That is where you can get breaking updates. It looks like they are going ahead and coming to the podium here. So I will send it on outside and we will listen to what officials have to say.
We were going to be live at 6:30 anyway, so.
Y'all right? Are we waiting for? Yeah, she's bringing a stand for all our mics.
Appreciate it.
Thank you. Hold on now. Oh, unscrew this, huh?
No.
Can you just stick it like that?
Okay, I'm gonna let you hook it. I don't want to mess it
And then we're feeling okay on positioning. Move her back. She's good right there. Okay. All right. Are we all ready?
Yep.
All right.
Good afternoon. My name is Marion McDaniel, and I am the Fire Chief for Rockdale County Fire Rescue. As you know, this event started at 5:30 this morning with a small fire on the roof area of the structure of Biolab. The fire was contained, and then the water supply secured. During the time they were offloading the product from the building, the fire reignited around 12 noon. For the past 2 or 3 hours, we've been battling that fire to where we now have it out. Once again, the water is secure, and we're waiting to clean up some of the debris so we can commence back to moving the product out of the building. As you see behind me, what you're seeing is still that chemical reaction from that water reactive chemical product, and once we can get it out, it was still off gas, but once again the fire is out, and that is the status of where we are right now.
Is this dangerous to lung health, or is that an issue for people?
Well, we have the EPA and EPD, Environmental Protection Agency and Department, are on scene. They're actually over on the location, and they're making assessments as to that.
What's the chemical, do you know?
I do not have that information, and once again, once they make all those determinations, they will provide that information.
Okay. Should people be evacuating or sheltering in place?
So I will refer to Sharon Webb, she's the Director of Emergency Management Agency, to answer that question. All right. Anything else?
Do you know about how long people can expect to still see this plume of smoke?
Probably several days. I was not here during this occurrence in 2004, and it was several days of this type of reaction. However, of course, the longer it goes, the better it's getting. So we're mitigating to it. It's a slow process, but we are working to get through it.
And again, this is just due to the chemical reaction of
Correct.
the fire.
Correct. correct, what you're seeing.
When was the fire? What time around was the fire?
So the initial call came in around 5:30 a.m. With a fire that, of course, activated the sprinkler systems, which reacted with the chemical itself. And so it's just been an ongoing. We've been fighting the fire with water, but the water is also aggravating the chemical, so it's a twofold. But we were able to get the fire under control, and that's where we are right now.
And about what time was the fire under control this afternoon?
I would say around 3:30, 4 o'clock.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So the fire was first. And
That's what started.
activated
This was a
sprinkler.
fire, correct. And we had that out. We started to offload the material, the product, and in the process of that, the fire reignited. And so from that point, that occurred around 12. So around 3:30, 4 o'clock is when we got that under control. And now, once again, we're just trying to mitigate through the debris so we can offload the product.
Do you know exactly what caused the fire to reignite?
We do not.
I mean, a lot of people are just looking at that and they look scary. And is there anything you want to say about people who are concerned about their health?
Only that Rockdale County Fire Rescue and Rockdale County as a whole are working together to mitigate this.
So I wanted to break in for just a second. I'm going to do that as she's talking, kind of comment on what they're talking about. Because, like I said, I have a little bit of experience with this as an environmental engineer. To me, they're saying they're using water to put that fire out, which I think is a bad idea. I understand that water is readily available, but as we were talking about earlier with this chemical fire, these chemicals individually are pyrophoric. That means as soon as they get water on them, they're wanting to catch on fire. They probably have alkali metals in them or something like that. I don't know exact chemicals. They never release what chemicals in there is at the biolab facility they're using. But it's that they're wanting to catch on fire, and if water touches them, I mean, a drop of water touches them. If you can even find videos of people you'll see them on YouTube where they throw sodium into water. Well, sodium's an alkali metal. As soon as it touches that water, it explodes. It sparks and stuff because it's pyrophoric. Same situation
It's like me
here.
using a microwave.
Yeah, we won't even talk about Allie using a microwave. That's another day's story. But they're pyrophoric. They're looking for a water source to catch on fire. They're very reactive and very unstable. So I understand that water is readily available, but I believe, in my honest opinion, they would have been better off just to come in with some type of foam or to do that, because even if you're using it to put out the fire around the area that has the chemical stored in it, not in the area where the chemical is, water wants to find a way. And no matter how, depending on how they have these chemicals stored, water's going to try to find a way to run downhill or find a way into a different area, because it's going to take the easiest path of resistance. And again, I haven't been in this plant, don't know exactly what it looks like, but it sounds like to me what happened. This is from earlier in the day. They went there and put the fire out with water. Well, they left the fires out and thought they had the water under control. Well, the water somehow later this afternoon found a way to make it into that room or that storage area where they have it stored again and reignite the fire. So in my personal opinion, I wouldn't have used water in this case to put this fire out. I would have definitely used foam, because again, you wouldn't have that fire spark back up again. If they went in this afternoon and did the same thing later on tonight, if it's not out already, which I don't think it is, I think it's still burning, it's going to spark right back up again. They're not being very smart about how they're putting this fire out. Again, this is my opinion with the experience in this type of field. So I'm going to let her talk some more, and I'll come back in as we continue on with this video.
Incident, and so we're doing it. We're working together, and we're going to keep moving forward to make sure everything is taken care of. All right.
Good afternoon. I'm Sharon Webb, Emergency Manager for Rockdale County EMA. Just want to touch base on the question in reference to evacuations. We did put a mandatory evacuations in that extend to Sigmund to Lakeview off Farmer Road, as well as Urban Bridge to Georgia 20 and Georgia 20 back to Sigmund Road. We have I-20 is shut down from Turner Hill all the way to Salem Road for the time being. Anyone out of this zone, for the north side, we do recommend shelter in place until the plume clears. We have opened up 2 shelters. One was in Newton County that residents can go to, and that address is 218 Scout Road, Covington, Georgia 30016. And General Ray Davis, located here in the south part of Rockdale County at 3375 East Fairview Road.
For you to do the shelter-in-place and evacuations, you do believe there's some sense of some kind of danger with this chemical, or is that just a precaution?
So right now it is a precaution. We do have EPA and EPD on scene right now, and until we get a reading of what the actual plume is, but yes, precautionary, being proactive to make sure everyone's safe.
Do you know about how long these evacuation, shelter-in-place, and I-20 being shut down? Do you know how long that, an estimate how long that's going to be in place?
Not at this time. It really depends on where the plume shifts to and what we get calculated back from their reading.
Any idea if this could affect school or work tomorrow?
As of right now, I really can't say that, but really depends on the weather. And when we get that report back from EPD, we'll be able to actually verify that.
Could you say how much damage I think was done to the building as far as like from this fire? Like
Chief
structural
McDaniel?
damage?
So yes, the building itself, the roof's collapsed in totally, as well as several of the walls, which is why
So what that lady was just saying is, she was discussing the plume itself. So that smoke, as we just discussed earlier, it has that chemical and those toxic chemicals in it. And you can see, they'll show a video of it again with the smoke, how high up, and it's that high up as it was in this video now. Wherever that smoke blows over, depending on the wind, it can blow towards Florida. You know, it depends on the wind direction and speed. It's going to get carryover of those toxic chemicals over those areas it blows over. So it's really a concern. That's what she was mentioning. They can't discuss schools and stuff yet because they're having to monitor where the plume goes. So what they're doing is there's other plants in that area that have air emission sensors that monitor. They mainly use them to monitor greenhouse gases and stuff like that, but it takes other readings as well, and they can get readings from those other plants and tell you where the carryover of that pollution is. So because it's going to migrate over the areas wherever it gets blown to, depending on what the wind direction is, and of course the wind direction can change. And
I did see that somebody said they were an hour away and could smell it, and they were told to just close all doors and windows, turn off the AC, but it's quite humid down there.
Right.
And they still have a lot of flooding too, which, I mean, I don't know with all that moisture. What Tony's the one that will answer these questions that I have, which I'm sure most people can figure it out. But with all this standing water, that's going to cause environmental hazards.
Right. So another problem with this smoke is we were talking about it drifting over places. Well, it also drifts downward as it moves out, where it is, of course, eventually going to come down. It don't stay in the sky. Any buildings it comes in contact with, those buildings, especially right in this town and area, they have evacuated most of this town. And I've dealt with a plume like this. It was chlorine when a train crash happened, and we had to evacuate a whole small town in South Carolina because the plume and the fire, the smoke, whatever it comes in contact with, whatever buildings it comes in contact with, they have to actually go out and pressure wash those areas, because the buildings and everything, because it has what's called particulate in it. The particulate is small pieces of chemical and physical pieces of the elements and stuff that get, when it burns, it's kind of like ashes when you burn a tree or burn a piece of wood. You know, though, you see those ashes and stuff fly up into smoke. Well, just the same thing situation here. You'll have the same toxic chemicals in that smoke being carried with that smoke, engulfing whatever area it engulfs. Definitely the town and wherever it gets blown to and wherever it sticks to. They have to go out and clean those areas, because if a child came in contact, okay, let's say it touched your house and it's on the side of your house. If a child puts his hand on it, then that child could, ingest it, and it has a path of entryway in his body, and it can make him sick. So they have to, as a responsibility, as what we call remediation by biolab have to pay to have that entire town basically pressure washed. And it just depends on how far it goes. They may be pressure washing a very large radius of area. Go ahead.
I did ask earlier, and I know you wanted to cover it on here, is somebody had mentioned that we've seen this in the past. where there's been like a big hurricane or tropical storm, and then there's flooding, and then there's a plant failure. This biolab place had something happen at their facility in Louisiana right after a hurricane, and then even not in the U.S., we've seen this happen in Japan, was
Right.
it?
Yeah, the Fukushima. Excuse me, the Fukushima nuclear plant, something. But you see it all over the place. These plants have a responsibility with these chemicals. They're supposed to have environmental engineers. They're supposed to have operators at that plant that realize these chemicals, this can happen. And they're supposed to take every opportunity to be proactive to protect these chemicals from something like this happens. I don't know how many of you are familiar with Georgia, but you'll remember in near Savannah, it was probably about 10 years ago, and you can Google or YouTube the video, look up a sugar plant explosion in Savannah, Georgia. Again, it was mismanagement by the owners of the plant, and dust can build up, and dust, when you get a certain amount of dust in the air, it becomes an explosive type situation. So they have a number based on the percentage of dust in the air. And when that dust gets so much in the air, it makes it explosive. You wouldn't think sugar dust. Okay, no big deal. Sugar's not explosive. I can put it in my coffee every morning. It's not the sugar itself. It's the amount of particulates and dust in the air that makes an explosive situation. Silos are the same way. You have to control that stuff in silos, because if you don't, it can cause an explosion. All it takes is a spark and it ignites. Same situation here. Biolab has a responsibility to make sure that stuff like this doesn't happen. Every plant has a responsibility to use this, whether it's this type of chemical or sulfuric acid, whatever materials they use. They have a responsibility to make sure that it's handled safely and disposed of as waste as safely. So it falls back on Biolab that all this happens. They get managed by Georgia EPD in this case, and the EPA. The EPA is the National Environmental Protection Agency, which everybody knows, but they really manage each state's smaller environmental department, regulatory agency. In Georgia's Georgia Environmental Protection Division, South Carolina DHEC. So it's that's the EPA's job to manage all of these, like Georgia EPD, Biolab has to send reports to Georgia EPD to show they're handling this stuff safely, and Georgia EPD is supposed to do inspections and stuff to make sure they're doing what they're saying they're doing. They also have a responsibility to report to the fire departments in the area where these plants are located at. They provide them something called a Tier 2 report. That is, any hazardous chemicals they have on site, they provide for the fire departments and hazardous material teams and hazardous response teams in that area. Hey, I have this chemical here on site. This is where it's located. This is what could happen, and the fire department is supposed to be ready to have the stuff ready wherever in that area to handle a fire should it happen there. So I'd like to welcome everybody in. Thank you for being here. We appreciate you. If you like our content, give us a like. Definitely subscribe and turn on your notifications. We cover breaking news and extreme weather, and we like to talk with our people in chat. So if you have questions, just let me know. But I'm gonna let her talk a little bit more. But I'll probably annoy you some more when I come in and break into explain what she's saying. Thank you again for everybody being here.
We are trying to assemble all that together and move it away to clear out so we can have a better path to offload that product.
Have you been able to contact the owners of the building and communicate with them about
Well, the
situation?
plant manager was and probably still is on site. I took a tour over there earlier today, and the plant manager was on site, as well as a few of the employees, along with the staff. So yes, so they've been in contact. I have not, but someone's been in contact with them.
And do you guys know, I know with what caused you said you're not sure what caused the fire to reignite. Do you know what caused the initial fire this morning?
We do not have that information at this time. Just haven't had an opportunity, just trying to fight it and get it up under control.
Can you rule out that it was started possibly by the aftermath of the storm?
No, once again, we don't have that information.
I did want to make note in reference to Piedmont Rockdale. They have started moving patients to other facilities for precautionary measures as well. They are not closed. They were just, taking precautions to move patients to protection, and they are on diversion for anyone that happens to have a medical emergency. We encourage you to go to a surrounding hospital in another county.
I did see some of the officers wearing what looked like gas masks. Is it safe to even be right here where we're standing with no mask on?
So the plume is not, and we are not in the vicinity of the plume. A lot of people do take precautionaries, but as of right now, we are protected where we are.
Do you have any idea on a rough number of the amount of people who have had to be evacuated after this today?
So in reference to what I got from GMA a little while ago was about 17,000.
And then where are those evacuation sites in regard?
To what we are evacuated?
Yeah, or where can people, in case if they still need to be evacuated out?
To the General Ray Davis facility and the Burt Jones Boy Scout Club in Newton County.
Okay.
Okay, so there's basically a shelter-in-place section and there's an evacuation.
Correct, yes.
Section too. Okay.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Thanks. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. Have a great evening.
Facility.
General Ray Davis Middle School at 375 East Avenue.
Hey everyone, I'm just getting some notes here. We had our reporter Bridget Spencer out there. We were getting the latest from officials in regards to this chemical plant fire. It took place at the biolab facility in Conyers on Old Covington Highway. We did get some new information here and some things that officials have clarified for us. If you joined us here on ANF Plus, you know that it was still a very fluid situation, and I do want to go ahead and emphasize some of the things that we have learned and explain further a little bit of what we know. Going to show you some images here. Sorry about that. All right, so we just heard from Rockdale County Fire Rescue. If you're just now joining us, here's what happened. There was a fire that took place at this biolab facility, and it caused the water that the sprinkler went off as a result. That water caused a chemical reaction with the chemicals in that facility. Our reporter Bridget Spencer asked specifically, what are those chemicals? They say the Environmental Protection Agency is on the scene and they have no word as far as what those specific chemicals are. However, this is a pool water and spa water treatment business, so that kind of gives us some idea of what exactly takes place at this situation. So again, we are getting these breaking updates, and what we know at this point is that there was a small fire that happened around 5 o'clock in the morning. No word from officials on what caused that fire. They're still investigating that, but that caused a sprinkler to go off. When that sprinkler went off, the water reacted with the chemicals in that plant, causing this chemical reaction, this plume that we are seeing. They tried to get that product out of the building, and in doing so, around noon, the fire reignited. No word on why that was. So what we're seeing, this image, this cloud, this plume, is a chemical reaction from the water. Now, the update here is that the fire is now out, officials are telling us. Again, Environmental Protection Agency is on the scene. They are doing tests to
So I was going to break in here. You can see this plume. This is from earlier in the morning. It started back up again. I just found an update from these same people from this afternoon where it started back up. But look at that plume. Remember what we were talking about earlier as far as that plume of smoke coming off those chemicals burning or carrying toxic chemicals. Whatever these pyrophoric chemicals are that the water came in contact with. Like again, I said it's probably some type of alkali metal that they use in the formulation for those pool chemicals. When they're individuals, they're pyrophoric. That means if any type of water gets on them, they want to burn. Just like sodium metal is an example of that, like I said earlier. So whatever metals or chemicals that are pyrophoric that this is carrying is toxic. It's a respiratory. It can cause respiratory issues. It can make you sick. You know, that's why they evacuated the area. So it's never a good thing when this happens. But look at the size of the plume of that smoke. And if we had a live satellite picture of that smoke, which I don't think we do, I'll see if I can find one. You could probably see that huge plume of smoke on a satellite, because that is a large, thick plume of smoke. So whatever area that plume of smoke is blowing over is carrying those toxic chemicals as particulates, or little bitty pieces of whatever metal or chemical it is that we're dealing with here, and that's falling out of suspension in that air over in that smoke as it flies over that area. That's why not only is the smoke itself dangerous, but the stuff falling out of suspension in that smoke as it flies over areas is also a problem. And unfortunately, as working as an environmental engineer, it's a nightmare when something like this happens, because you can't. There's no look at that. There's no way to control that. You don't have a big fan that you can blow it back towards the plant and keep it under a bubble. Unfortunately, so I mean, it's a nightmare, because anywhere that goes and whatever it comes in contact with, it's going to put that toxic chemical on that material that it blows across. And not to mention, you know, whatever areas it's blowing across, people are being exposed to breathe in that pollutant in that smoke. So it's a nightmare when something like this happens, because there's not a good way to handle smoke like that. If you just have gas or something running across the ground, petroleum products or something, it's easy. You can put booms around it. You can control it. Even if it gets in the water, it's easier to control than when it gets in the air. The air is kind of a wild card, because you're dealing with weather, you're dealing with winds, you're dealing with everything that's involved with it. And already this is happening in an area that's decimated by flooding and the hurricane and stuff like that. So they already have people at wit's end trying to deal with that, with power outages and stuff like that. So it's making a bad situation far, far worse. So I'm gonna let it play for a little bit longer. I don't know. We'll do. It's like a 42-minute video. I'm gonna stop it at some point. Then we'll play the latest update from it as well. But I kind of want to give you a good idea this morning what started all this. And you heard her say, like we talked about earlier, that it's caused by a sprinkler malfunction on those pyrophoric chemicals that caused this fire to start. So if you have any questions, please let us know in the chat. I'll gladly answer what I can. I do have a little bit of experience with this, or a lot of experience with this type of situation. So I'll gladly answer anything that anybody has. But thank you all so very much for being here. We love it when people come into our channel, and we're here to try to inform. So again, thank you very much. And if you like our content, give us a like and subscribe and turn on notifications so you can catch all kinds of news stories like this. We do manhunts and all kinds of extreme weather and anything that's happening. So thank you again for being here.
Determine what exact chemicals are in the air. Now, we also heard from Rockdale County Emergency Management Agency. And you'll remember that we showed you that shelter, or that evacuation zone map. I'm going to see if we can get that up here for you real quick, because they did clarify a little bit about that order as to what exactly that means. Let's see if I can get this up for you here. Sorry, guys, bear with me. I'm trying to find that map. All right, let's see if we can get our web browser up. Okay, unfortunately, I'm not able to get that map up for you right now, but they did clarify that there is a shelter-in-place order in one part and an evacuation order in another part. That we wanted to clarify from what we were told earlier. Okay, here we go. Thank you, digital producer Ellie Parker. She has that pulled up for us right here. So in that evacuation zone, they have said that anyone out of the zone to the north in Rockdale County, shelter in place. There is a shelter in place order. They say that it is a precautionary measure. Now, anyone within that zone, they are encouraging you to evacuate. However, they say if you do not evacuate, or if you are unable to evacuate, they are encouraging you to shelter in place. So I'll go ahead and say that again because, again, we do want to clarify that point. We just learned from officials that there is some nuance to this order here. So take a look at this zone, zoom in on it if you can. If you're out and about, we have this for you on AtlantaNewsFirst.com or our ANF Plus app. You can, if you are in this evacuation zone, they are encouraging you to get out. They have shelters for you to evacuate. One of those is the Burt Jones Boy Scout facility in Newton County. The other is, would you give that address to me one more time, Ellie? I wasn't able to jot it down quite that quickly. 3375 East Fairview Road, and that's in Stockbridge. So those are two areas that you can go to if you are able to evacuate. They say if you live north of that zone in I-20, or north of I-20, outside of this zone in Rockdale County, go ahead and shelter in place. You are not considered under an evacuation order. This is done out of an abundance of caution. But they say if you
So you can see that with this evacuation zone map, and this evacuation zone is still the same. I just looked for what's burning now. That's a large area, so they're expecting. I'm assuming that the winds are pretty strong down there because of the hurricane and stuff, where leftovers from storm systems and stuff from the hurricane. So they're expecting it to blow. It looks like they're thinking it's going to blow towards the where it curves up there. That's the area, the largest area they think it's going to blow to. But winds change. Depending on what's going on with the weather or whatever, it could vary. To the northeast of that area, the evacuation zone is Atlanta. So this smoke, if something changes and they can't get this fire out, and the wind changes direction and starts blowing more towards the northwest of this area, it could very easily, this smoke could blow over the top of Atlanta. And then,
And what'll this mean if there's another hurricane or tropical storm? It's right now in the same path as Helene. Even if it doesn't turn into a hurricane, if it's just a tropical storm, we know how Georgia has been getting hit.
Right, and they're playing a time game. Again, anything this smoke comes in contact with, this toxic chemicals, is probably going to have to be cleaned off depending on what the chemical is because it's toxic. So the last thing they want is another storm to blow through, which they're thinking if that new storm, which we'll talk about here in a little bit, forms in the Gulf and takes the same path as Helene, even if it's not as strong, they don't want torrential rains coming in. Because any type of any type of wall or building or whatever that this particulates from that smoke get on is going to have a residue of it sitting on it until they get it cleaned off. So if you get a huge rainstorm coming through, all right, it just washed all that off of that building or off of that wall or off of wherever it's at down onto the ground. And depending on where it washes it down to, then you've also got a water contamination issue, and it can contaminate your water sources, whether it be storm water or fresh water or whatever. So it becomes a whole new problem if you introduce water into this situation. Now it's no longer going to be, once it reacts with the water, like when it's burning, it's still toxic in the smoke, but it's not pyrophoric anymore. It burns itself out. The reaction it's kind of like when you mix vinegar and baking soda. Eventually the baking soda, the reaction ends itself. Well, when this stuff reacts with water, it reacts and it's done. So what's blowing in the smoke is no longer reactive with water because it's already been burned out, but it's still toxic. So it's like it's toxic for you to ingest or come in contact with, but it's not concerned with it catching on fire again. What's being carried by the smoke itself. So
now, could this have the same? I know we discussed this, you and I, earlier. Is if you're exposed to a ton of chlorine, we've seen this from a lot of places that have indoor pools, whether they're homes or hotels. Too much chlorine, if they don't have the right balance, or there's been lawsuits before of this of people having it not stored in a proper proper
Right.
area.
They're not ventilating it
Right.
correctly. Yeah.
Which we even had that in an Airbnb with a hot tub, an indoor hot tub. It wasn't ventilated in there.
Right.
And we got really bad headaches. I had breathing issues. And I kept feeling like I was going to have a seizure because I've had seizures in the past. And I know that chlorine can cause you, usually it'll cause you to just get lightheaded and pass out, but it can cause seizures and breathing issues.
Right.
So Tony was explaining to me, he reminded me of an incident that happened with his dad, which was very similar, where he just didn't realize using two different chemicals that aren't deadly by themselves, but if mixed, create something deadly. And Tony will explain that, but that's another thing I'm wondering is...
Right. He didn't realize he was using two different cleaning products in the bathroom to clean, and one had chlorine in it, one had ammonia in it. Well, he didn't realize if those two come in contact with each other, ammonia and chlorine react, it forms mustard gas. So I actually had to pull him out. He was in a small bathroom cleaning. He passed out when I was a kid, and didn't realize what had happened. So we had to pull him out because he passed out. Because what it essentially does, mustard gas takes all the oxygen out of the air, and it became an oxygen deficient area, and so he passed out. It's kind of like a confined space. Well, what can happen with this? While they're telling people, if you're staying here, shut your windows, shut your doors, seal them, block them with towels and stuff like that. If you don't have it sealed, or you have a window open, or you have your AC on, it's going to pull the smoke into your house. Well, that becomes like a confined space, and you're being exposed to a respiratory type situation where it could very easily make it an oxygen deficient area in your house, because it gets in and it's coming in faster, especially if it's being pumped in by your air conditioner, which is pulling air from the outside and pumping it throughout your house. It's coming in faster than it can actually seep out of your house around the windows and the doors, because if you don't have good windows and doors, they're not airtight, then it's seeping out, but it's seeping out slow. If you do have airtight windows and doors, it's even worse, because if you have your air conditioner on, it's pulling it in and has no way to go out. So you're pulling this toxic chemicals into your house, and it can cause an oxygen deficient area and cause you to actually pass out. So it's kind of a bad situation. It's a better situation if you turn your AC off and you have bad windows and doors, but you have them shut and it's seeping in slowly in your house. But if you have the AC on, then it seeps out slower, or possibly not at all, but it's being pumped in. So it can cause a very bad situation and make people very sick. And that's something to consider in this area with this, as this fire continues. Everywhere it comes in contact with it, it's still southeast. It's not. I know it's technically fall, but it's still quite warm and humid from this hurricane coming through. So it still can cause a bad situation. So thank you everybody for being here. I'm going to let her talk a little bit more with this video before I play the second video, but we appreciate everybody being here. If you have any questions, just let us know in the chat. Again, thank you for being here, and if you like our content, please give us a like and subscribe and turn on notifications so you can hear more from situations like this.
On this channel, I just want to take a quick second. On our channel here in Breaking News, obviously we cover breaking news, but also we go on to my professional scanner that I have through the fire department, and we'll listen in to different things happening around. I can access pretty much any city, any county that I need to, and we get updates whenever there's an event, whether it's a car chase or a shooting or a big fire, a plane crash, anything. We get the notifications, and we'll go on and play our scanner so you can hear it from ours. And even when they go private and they go down, it's open to me because I go in using my badge number. So we do that. We'll also, if there's a day where there's not a lot going on, which is a good thing, then we will cover different like true crime, mystery cases, like real cases that are unsolved, and we'll dive into those and just analyze them. We invite you to fall down the rabbit hole with us. And then sometimes we'll play those games that you can order that come like once a month to your house. But we will play a game where we receive a package that has like the interrogations with witnesses and the evidence, and we have to solve the crime. Obviously, it's a fake case, but we play that with you guys so you can help us solve the crime. So anything we're doing, whether it's a breaking news story that's serious, covering a big case that's going on in the nation, or just having fun and doing one of those true crime games, we're always open to bringing people in here. So, you know, when we're talking about this power plant fire, or I'm sorry, not power plant, the biolab fire, that's something that Tony, it's right in his wheelhouse, and he can talk about it. If there's like a big box alarm fire, I'm used to those. I can report on that. So some things like that were good. Now, other things, if we're not well learned in it or well versed in it, and somebody is like, oh, well, I work construction. Like, let's say there was a bridge collapse. We'd love to have people come in, and you can come in and talk about us and not only give us, but also give the people watching more information from somebody that actually has experience with these types of things. So we welcome any questions you have, anything that maybe we don't know about, because we don't know everything when it happens. So feel free to let us know that you heard something somewhere and you think it'd be good, or if you have something you want to add. We definitely, this is not just us reporting, it's an open conversation.
So, okay, we're going to play a little bit more of this. And again, I'll break in and annoy y'all a little bit more about it. But I just wanted to break in and tell you a little bit more about it as this stuff happens. So we'll see what else she has to say.
You can evacuate in this zone. Do so. If you are, for whatever reason, unable to evacuate, to go ahead and shelter in place. So I did want to clarify that for you. So again, they say that the fire has been put out as of around 4 o'clock, and the cloud that you're still seeing is still that chemical reaction. We asked how long do they anticipate that this is going to be in the air, that we're going to see this plume, and they say it could be several days. Some of you had pointed out earlier, this is not the first time this has happened. They referenced themselves an incident that took place at the same facility back in 2004, and they said it was several days before we saw that plume eventually dissipate. And as far as some of you were asking about work and school tomorrow, our reporter Bridget Spencer, she asked that question. They said at this point, they don't know that information yet. We are still anticipating more updates tonight. They say it's going to depend on the information that they get from the Environmental Protection Agency. Also, keep in mind, Piedmont at Rockdale, the hospital there, they are moving patients. They say this is out of an abundance of caution. And they say that if you are having a medical emergency, they are urging you to go to a hospital outside of the county. So at this time, we asked, are people in danger? What are these chemicals? Where that press conference was taking place, you'll notice they weren't wearing masks or anything. That's because they said that they were safely outside of where that plume was dissipating. They're more concerned about the northern part of the county, north of I-20. And so they said this is all a precautionary measure until they know more information. So I just want to reiterate a couple of points because we do have more people joining us. What we're talking about here is in Rockdale County, Georgia. This is in Conyers. This is east of Atlanta. And a fire at BioLab on Old Covington Highway happened around 5 o'clock this morning. No word on what caused that fire, but as a result of that small fire, the sprinklers went off. When the water from the sprinklers hit the chemicals that are in, they deal with pool chemicals, spa chemicals. They did not specify what those chemicals were. We asked that question specifically. They're waiting on a report from the Environmental Protection Agency. That caused this chemical reaction, and that resulted in this chemical haze that we are seeing. Now, things got somewhat
So right now, she's just reiterating some of the stuff in this video. What I wanted to do is bring up the other video that happened just about 45 minutes ago where it reignites, and we may watch a little bit more of this. So Allie brought up a good point. If this fire is out, when it goes out for the second time, is it all done? Well, kind of, sort of, but it is. What's happened is you may not see the smoke. It just, that particulate matter gets in the air, and it's still going to blow. Eventually it'll fall out. If the wind dies down, it'll fall out of suspension wherever the wind's not enough to keep it tumbling through the air. So even though you're not seeing smoke in the area, that doesn't mean that particulate, that toxic chemical, is not being blown over your area. Like for instance, in Georgia, let's just use that as an example because that's where we're talking about. You'll see the way the EPA and Georgia EPD looks at their emissions for plants and stuff. Atlanta's a big industrial area, so they have smokestacks of industrial plants that blow smoke in the air. Well, you may not see the smoke, but you can actually get maps that show you the pollutant migration from those smokestacks carries over Georgia, South Carolina, and Alabama, because of the migration, because of the wind. So even though the smoke's not there, that aerial emission contamination from the pollutants is still in air. So what it can do is it can impact the air quality of Alabama, Georgia, and South Carolina, and Tennessee, depending on which way the wind's blowing, because there's so many plants in the Atlanta area that are producing pollutants in the air, they get that carryover effect into all those different states as it's being transported by the winds in the sky. So same situation here. You're going to get carryover from this, no matter, even though the smoke may dissipate at some point. If the winds are, as you go up high enough in the air, you still get wind currents. Those wind currents may still be carrying that pollutant through the air, and you not see the smoke to indicate that it's happening. Even though it's being monitored by, like I said earlier, the smokestack sensors across the state at plants and stuff, it'll show up. It's kind of like if you remember Chernobyl, when it happened, how Russia didn't tell us anything about Chernobyl exploding or having a meltdown and getting the radioactive particles in the air. We didn't know anything about it until it showed up in Sweden in the cow's milk and stuff, because it got carried over through the winds from Russia to Sweden. So it can stay airborne for a long period of time. So based on which way the winds are blowing, you may be in an area, if you live in the southeast, that gets impacted by that contamination in the air. So I highly recommend, if you live in the southeast, check your air quality from either on the weather app or anything like that. It'll give you an idea, because like I say, these sensors will pick it up as it goes across different plants because they're required to do so. And the EPA has access into all those sensors real time, so they can actually go through places whichever way the wind's blowing and watch for a trail of this contamination going through as it travels across with carryover, whether it's Georgia, South Carolina, Alabama, Tennessee, wherever it's going, they can see it show up on those sensors. So I highly recommend that you check your weather on your weather app, the air quality section of it, and they'll tell you what the air quality level is, whether it's good or bad. Now, when it is going, as the winds die down a little bit, you're going to start seeing particulate pieces of it, depending on how big it is, start falling out as it goes, because the wind's not strong enough to carry it. So it's hard to say how far the radius that it will blow across, but it just depends on the wind currents at the elevation that it's at. So let me change videos real quick. I'm gonna go to this new video of it where it picked back up again this afternoon. So the same lady comes in and does another press conference about the starting up again. So we'll listen to her now, and then I'll come back in. This is a short one. I think it's only like 9 minutes, but you can see the smoke again this afternoon behind her is being carried off in the sky, and what a huge plume of smoke that it is, that's loaded with toxic chemicals.
Daniel, it's the same thing that I said earlier.
What was that?
No, I'm just saying that was going to be my thing, what I said earlier.
Mm-hmm.
Same thing.
Yeah,
I'm just being silly.
Okay.
said it was gonna be all day.
I did.
It was all
And it's,
day.
yeah. Yes. Yes. Yes.
Not yet, Chief.
I'm waiting for y'all. Hey, hey. All right.
I'm sorry, I missed that. What was that? I said we have probably like less than 5 and 9. Okay, okay. Sure.
No, what's going on? Is that the start? Okay, cool. Thanks.
Hey, Florence.
She came up here on 2 wheels, didn't she?
She has to do what she has to do. She's with you guys.
Yeah.
No, she's right now.
Yeah.
She's on a mission. I appreciate the drive.
Yeah.
2 wheels.
Make sure your boss knows she's dedicated.
We said you came up here on 2 wheels.
Indeed. Look, she's dedicated.
Hey there. They're about to update it shortly. Cool. I remember. Yeah. I heard about something and I'm like.
You guys, this is for everybody, for all evolving information. We're really keeping our Facebook page and our website up to date, so feel free. Videos, pictures, and all of that. Even after this, we're keeping everything updated.
Cool. Awesome.
Thank you.
I won't do this time.
Remember, you're going to have to keep these pieces.
I know.
Do you want the little mic stand to hold all of them?
You mean the little...
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, if you can grab it quickly.
Okay.
Yeah. Probably we're communicating. Yeah. We're working with the region. Did you hear that we're delayed till 6:30? We're delayed till 6:30. We were going to be live at 6:30 anyway, so.
Yeah.
Y'all ready? Are we waiting for...
Yeah, we're
she's
just
bringing
grabbing
a
the stand, yeah.
for all our mics.
Appreciate you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Diggity dang.
It's good.
No.
okay. I'm positioning. You move her back. She's good right there. Okay. All right. Are we all ready?
Yeah. Yep.
All right.
Good afternoon. My name is Marion McDaniel, and I am the Fire Chief for Rockdale County Fire Rescue. As you know, this event started at 5:30 this morning with a small fire on the roof area of the structure of BioLab. The fire was contained, and then the water supply secured. During the time they were offloading the product from the building, the fire reignited around 12 noon. For the past 2 or 3 hours, we've been battling that fire to where we now have it out. Once again, the water is secure, and we're waiting to clean up some of the debris so we can commence back to moving the product out of the building. As you see behind me, what you're seeing is still that chemical reaction from that water reactive chemical product, and once we can get it out, it was still off gas, but once again, the fire is out, and that is the status of where we are right now.
Is this dangerous to lung health? Is that an issue for people?
Well, we have the EPA and EPD, Environmental Protection Agency and Department, are on scene. They're actually over on the location, and they're making assessments as to that.
What's the chemical then?
I do not have that information. Once again, once they make all those determinations, they will provide that information.
Okay. Should people be evacuating or sheltering in place?
So I will refer to Sharon Webb. She's the Director of Emergency Management Agency, to answer that question. All right. Anything else?
Do you know about how long people can expect to still see this plume of smoke?
Probably several days. I was not here during this occurrence in 2004, and it was several days of this type of reaction. However, of course, the longer it goes, the better it's getting. So we're mitigating to it. It's a slow process, but we are working to get through it.
And again, this is just due to the chemical reaction.
Correct.
Of the fire.
Correct. What you're seeing.
When was the fire? What time around was the fire?
So the initial call came in around 5:30 a.m. With a fire that, of course, activated the sprinkler systems, which reacted with the chemical itself. And so it's just been an ongoing. We've been fighting the fire with water, but the water is also aggravating the chemical, so it's a twofold. But we were able to get the fire under control, and that's where we are right now.
And about what time was the fire under control this afternoon?
I would say around 3:30, 4 o'clock.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So the fire was first.
That's what started. This was a fire, correct. And we had that out. We started to offload the material, the product, and in the process of that, the fire reignited. And so from that point, that occurred around 12. So around 3:30, 4 o'clock is when we got that under control. And now, once again, we're just trying to mitigate through the debris so we can offload the product.
Do you know exactly what caused the fire to reignite?
We do not.
I mean, a lot of people are just looking at that and they look scary. And is there anything you want to say about people who are concerned about their health?
Only that Rockdale County Fire Rescue and Rockdale County as a whole are working together to mitigate this incident. And so we're doing it. We're working together, and we're going to keep moving forward to make sure everything is taken care of. All right.
Good afternoon. I'm Sharon Webb, Emergency Manager for Rockdale County EMA. Just want to touch base on the question in reference to evacuations. We did put a mandatory evacuations in that extend to Sigmund to Lakeview off Farmer Road, as well as Urban Bridge to Georgia 20 and Georgia 20 back to Sigmund Road. We have I-20 is shut down from Turner Hill all the way to Salem Road for the time being. Anyone out of this zone, for the north side, we do recommend shelter in place until the plume clears. We have opened up 2 shelters. One was in Newton County that residents can go to, and that address is 218 Scout Road, Covington, Georgia 30016, and General Ray Davis, located here in the south part of Rockdale County at 3375 East Fairview Road.
We're committed to keeping our quality high and our prices low. Whatever you do it for less at Harbor Freight.
Adventure awaits. Get your new vehicle loan from State Credit Union and enjoy having no car payments for 90 days.
For you to do the shelter in place and evacuations, you do believe there's some sense of some kind of danger with this chemical, or is that just a precaution?
So right now it is a precaution. We do have EPA and EPD on scene right now, and until we get a reading of what the actual plume is, but yes, precautionary, being proactive to make sure everyone's safe.
Do you know about how long these evacuation shelter in place and I-20 being shut down? Do you know how long estimate how long that's going to be in place?
Not at this time. It really depends on where the plume shifts to and what we get calculated back from their reading.
Any idea if this could affect school or work tomorrow?
As of right now, I really can't say that, but really depends on the weather. And when we get that report back from EPD, we'll be able to actually verify that.
Could you say how much damage I think was done to the building as far as like from this fire? Like
Chief
structural
McDaniel.
damage?
So yes, the building itself, the roofs collapsed in totally, as well as several of the walls, which is why we are trying to assemble all that together and move it away to clear out so we can have a better path to offload that product.
Have you been able to contact the owners of the building and communicate with them about this?
Well, the plant manager was and probably still is on site. I took a tour over there earlier today, and the plant manager was on site, as well as a few of the employees, along with the staff. So yes, so they've been in contact. I have not, but someone's been in contact with them.
And do you guys know, I know with what caused you said you're not sure what caused the fire to reignite. Do you know what caused the initial fire this morning?
We do not have that information at this time. Just haven't had the opportunity, just trying to fight it and get it up under control.
Can you rule out that it was started possibly by the aftermath of the storm?
No, once again, we don't have that information.
I did want to make note in reference to Piedmont Rockdale. They have started moving patients to other facilities for precautionary measures as well. They are not closed. They were just, taking precautions to move patients to protection, and they are on diversion for anyone that happens to have a medical emergency. We encourage you to go to a surrounding hospital in another county.
I did see some of the officers wearing what looked like gas masks. Is it safe to even be right here where we're standing with no mask on?
So the plume is not, and we are not in the vicinity of the plume. A lot of people do take precautionaries, but as of right now, we were protected where we are.
Do you have any idea on a rough number of the amount of people who have had to be evacuated after this today?
So in reference to what I got from GMA a little while ago was about 17,000.
And then where are those evacuation sites in regard?
To what we are evacuated?
Yeah, or where can people, in case if they still need to be evacuated out?
To the General Ray Davis facility and the Burt Jones Boy Scout Club in Newton County.
Okay.
Okay, so there's basically a shelter-in-place section and there's an evacuation.
Correct, yes.
Section too. Okay.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Appreciate it.
Hi, my name is Mary.
So what we got, she basically explained what we'd already explained that reignited this afternoon. It happened when they were trying to move I guess they're trying to, it sounds like the whole roof collapsed over that area where that chemical is stored, so that they're trying to move it around to get it for it, so it can't be, if it rains, it won't rain on top of it and cause this all over again is what they're trying to do. They're putting it in probably drums or big open top containers and covering it to get it off site so it can be disposed of properly. I wanted to put up, so as you heard them say, they evacuated 17,000 people from that area. Huge smoke plume coming off. I had a couple of pictures of it that I was going to show you from I-20 where people posted pictures of it.
When I decided to get my education degree, I heard it all. It's too.
Let's get real. Your butt's not perfect, but at Orgain, we love them all. We love.
I almost fell off the chair.
Talking about moving? Moving means
So what we're seeing in this video, I'm going to continue to let it play as I talk, but because it doesn't have much sound to it. But Columbia, South Carolina, start to get pressure on from all there as they take on the water from up in the upstates and the mountains and stuff as it flows down and makes its way there to go on through. Well, the problem is they have floodgates like on these dams. Well, they open the floodgates. Well, all that does is it propagates it to move on farther down the rivers towards the coast. So it's just going to be a chain reaction across those states as the water from the flooding in North Carolina and Tennessee and makes its way across South Carolina and North Carolina. Hence why we're seeing all these flash flood warnings start to pop up in those states. And they're starting to evacuate people in like Columbia, South Carolina, and Charlotte away from flood zones. So, because those rivers are going to be overwhelmed in the middle of the states, and then
there's a lot of dams in South Carolina too.
Right, and not only like major dams like on Lake Murray, but also you see the river systems. It flows off into different little areas where people have property where they've made ponds and stuff and made. Thinking it's going to take the exact same path as Helene did. I was going to bring up, I thought I put a map in here of, yeah, here we go. Let me close out this video. There we go. This is, right now, this is all the hurricanes that, and possible hurricanes that the National Hurricane Center has happening. Okay, Isaac, you see up there, is a full-fledged hurricane, but Isaac is thought that it's going towards Europe, so it's not going to even get close to the United States. You can see it's already turning that way. Joyce, they think, is going to turn toward the north as well. So, you know, it's not going to be a problem. 12 and the one that's closer back, the yellow X that you see there, 12 is thought to going to become a hurricane, and that X behind it is thought it has a 40% to 50% probability of becoming a hurricane. But again, because of the steering currents in the ocean, they think all those may not even make it close to the United States. Our biggest problem right now is this disturbance down here near Central America, almost the exact same spot last week where Helene started off at. They're thinking that this is going to again become a tropical storm and become another hurricane. Now their hopes are that the stuff that got stirred up when Helene came through, that it cooled the waters down in the Gulf, but they're not sure of that for 100%. But so over the next week, they think by next weekend this disturbance could be another hurricane. Not sure of what size hurricane yet, but the models like GFS and European models are showing if it does become a hurricane, it's going to go right over the exact same path that Helene did last week. So definitely this is something we'll be watching this week as far as formation of that hurricane. So we'll keep an eye on that and keep everybody updated on that as well. But we just want to talk a little bit about the aftermath. Pray for all those people that are in South Carolina, North Carolina, Georgia, Tennessee, Kentucky, Ohio, all the areas that are being impacted by the Hurricane Helene with the flooding and power outages. because it is definitely a bad situation, folks. We're seeing devastation from this storm that is more so than I think we have in any hurricane in history. So definitely keep those people in your thoughts and prayers, and hopefully things will kind of get back to normal this week. But unfortunately, again, we have to watch this storm coming through earlier. I want to go back to one thing from earlier. I didn't realize my mic was off when I was talking after that last press conference. Yeah, that was a dumb moment on my part. But I wanted to pull up explain what I was saying about that carryover. I brought it up and y'all saw it. But we were talking about earlier after that first press conference how you could see on a weather radar possibly that plume because it's such a big amount of smoke. You can see on this weather radar from the first fire this morning before it sparked back up this afternoon, the carryover of that plume of smoke from Conyers all the way out to Statham in Georgia. We were talking about, it just doesn't stop right around I-20, like where they had the evacuation zone. It's being carried by those winds. In this case, it's being carried to the northeast towards Statham, which I don't have a scale to tell you how far that is. I have no clue. I would say it's just probably a couple hours away from Conyers, Georgia. Now, if the weather changes and the winds change, what you're going to see is that Atlanta is up here where you can see right there where the radar is on that red tag. Atlanta's right to the left of that. So, if the winds change, this plume of smoke could very easily be blown over Atlanta and affect a large number of people, even more so than these smaller towns that it's blowing to. But you heard them say that second press conference, they've evacuated 17,000 people because of this fire and all this plume. But you also heard them say they don't really know what the bad thing is. They don't know what these chemicals are in this plume. So we know that it was something that was pyrophoric, that the was like a metal, like alkali metal, like I talked about, or something like that earlier, because the water ignited it. But they don't have 100% guarantee of what all is in this smoke that's being blown over all of these people. So they, people are being exposed to stuff. They're looking, the EPA and Georgia EPD are analyzing, like we talked about earlier, those sensors and those smokestacks and this path that you're seeing here on this radar. You try to figure out what chemicals, because it breaks it down what's in the smoke that runs across those sensors. So they'll be able to identify what it is, but they haven't let all these people know, hey, you're in the path of something that we know could cause respiratory issues, but we're not 100% sure what all's in that smoke, because what all burnt we don't know, because what all chemicals they had stored in that area can impact the toxicity of that plume of smoke. So definitely, if you know anyone in that area, have them check the air quality on their weather apps. Usually the Weather Channel, all those apps will have a weather quality section. It'll tell you what the weather quality is that's being released by the EPA. So, the people in that path, wherever the wind blows, if it changes, they could be impacted by this plume of smoke. So definitely we'll follow this story as it comes along. If anything comes out tonight about what the EPA says is in this smoke, we'll come on and talk about it. But we just wanted to break in and tell you all about this Conyers fire. We hope we gave you some information maybe you didn't already know. We appreciate everybody being here. We hope we told you more a little bit about the aftermath of the hurricane. But thank you all for being here. If you like our content, please give us a like and subscribe and turn your notifications, because we'll definitely follow all stories like this, extreme weather, breaking news, manhunts, whatever's going on or whatever you want to talk about, we can talk about it. So thank you all for being here. We love y'all. We can turn your notifications on in case we get more information about this. But thank you very much for being here. And we hope you all have a great day, or a great night. And we'll be back when the next breaking news comes on. So thank you again for being here. And
stay safe.
Stay safe from floods, power outages. We're here with you. We feel for you. We feel your pain, and if we can be of any help, please let us know. Thank you, everybody, and have a good night.
Breaking news right now. Turn the volume loud. Headlines top the charts. We inform your hearts. Breaking news, HQ, always here for you. Trust the word we share, news beyond compare. Stories fresh and bright, bringing truth to light. Every story counts. Watch the view.